Welcome to Could This Be Grace? My name is Alan Friesen. We're coming at you from Secokatoke, from Lethbridge, Alberta, the home of the ancestral home of the Blackfoot people. I have my co-host, my guest, the talent really for the show is Diane McConnell, PhD. She is the author of the book, Could This Be Grace? She has had some life experiences that have been very, very challenging. And with that, she is distilled down to the most crucial parts for us to learn from her experience. Diane, so nice to see your smiling face again.
And once again, good evening, Alan. I love spending time with you. It's been lots and lots of fun. So I really enjoyed it. Thank you for the invitation.
Diane and I were just having a chat before the show started. She said, how many people watch this? I said, I have no idea. But Diane and I enjoyed the conversation, so we're going to keep doing it. If somebody else joins us, maybe it's just us two, but that's okay. So. I know my bride Corolla, she's a fan. She watches it and lets us know every once in a while. So what'd you say about the coffee, Diane? I missed that.
I said it's just you and me and my tea.
And your tea, exactly. Yeah. So this is session 4, is it not? 4, my goodness. Time is just flying by. So this is a 6-part series. We're at part 4 is where we're at right now. And the other ones are available. They're recorded, and if you wish to go back and watch them. Or, of course, you can buy the book. Where can they buy the book, Diane?
I have a website coming out in a couple of weeks, and all the information is going to be on there. So maybe by the end of the series, I'll be able to share the contact information.
Wouldn't that be good? And I imagine the website address is going to be something about Could This Be Grace? I got to think, right?
I think it's going to be Diane McConnell. Anyway, new to me, all new.
Well,
the book is in print. I'm waiting for it to be delivered. That will be an exciting day.
No kidding, won't it? Yes, exactly.
Yeah, fun.
Yeah. Roy won't be able to address you as Diane anymore. He'll have to have some kind of special title for you. Right?
Madam,
Madam, may I prepare some breakfast for you, madam?
That's right. Oh yeah. Dream. Anyway, it's all fun.
Okay.
It's been good.
Good.
So session number 4, we should get started, hey?
Sure thing.
So I'm going to share my screen.
Please do.
Can you see that?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Dan.
Awesome. Okay, so previously in the couple of sessions that preceded this one, I began always by saying, let me introduce my family. I'm not going to do that tonight. I'm just going to review that the purpose of the book was to identify and unearth those lessons learned in the face of adversity that I thought might be helpful to anyone out there that was exposed or experiencing an adverse situation. So we did talk about, if you recall, in the second session, know the other. That was a really important thing, exercise, experience for me to personally go through that I talked about. The lesson was knowing yourself by understanding your belief system is important work. And I also was talking about the important work of knowing one another. I talked about relationships and connections that are vital to the human condition. And for our relationships and connections to be successful, we must take the time to know the other.
And Diane, I think that one thing that hit me from last week when we were chatting is about know the other also means that you accept them where they're at, like no judgment, no criticism of where they're at. You know that you understand them where they're at in their current position today, and just how can you help them with what they want help with, not what you think they might need help with. Did I hear that correctly?
You did it bang on. I talked about my doctoral research and gave you some examples and really identified at the end of that it was an experience where I wasn't prepared to understand the magnitude of the changes that were really happening within me. And the space that you're talking about where you really see somebody for whom they are is I call that the compassionate space between you and another. and take the time to think about their backstory and to create the experience where they really feel seen, they feel heard. You instill in them that they have a contribution to make and that they belong. And I don't know if I shared this story, but as an example of what we're talking about, my son, my youngest son that was totally blind, and I was on this, this hamster wheel looking for a support, a resource, a program that would teach him skills that he needed to have in order to be out in the community in such a way that people wouldn't even know that he was blind because he would be so high functioning. And as I would sit at the kitchen table and look out our window across the field, and I would see kids his age playing soccer and laughing and running around and having fun. I would sit in a pool of sadness and grief thinking he doesn't get to do that. And he's kind of up in his room all by himself and yada, yada. Therefore, I concluded he is really desperately unhappy, and therefore I was unhappy. And when I kind of went through this experience and started to look at him in a different way, and I was brave enough to have the conversation with him, he was really taken aback, and he said, I don't know why you're so worried about that. He said, I don't want to be out there running around playing soccer, not being able to see. And I'm really happy doing the things that I'm doing. And then he started to talk about the things that he was doing and how those things made him so happy, which was different than the paradigm that I had in my head. So really important concept. And that really took us to the place where last week I said, it isn't about what you're doing as much as it's so critically important and impactful on how you be.
Right.
So how you authentically show up for somebody.
Right. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's not what you do.
And Diane, would you agree as well that how you also, you show up authentically, but you encourage, you induce, you want them to be authentic, right? You want to encourage them to be their authentic self, whatever that means, right? And then help them on their path with their authentic self. What do they need in order to live that path that they have, right? The life that their unique life. I was thinking today, when my hot tub time today, I was thinking about, you hear some people say about everybody is a unique human being with unique sets of abilities, skills, attributes, etc., that kind of a thing. And then I know a lot of people would say, oh, well, that's crazy. We're all just, that's too much individual uniqueness. It doesn't exist. But if we got fingerprints that are unique, we got DNA that's unique, why wouldn't we also have a life path and a package of whatever, a package of attributes and skills and abilities and knowledge and things that are unique to us? Why wouldn't that be the truth?
Everybody has a gift, and everybody has talents, and everybody has strengths. And I think our job is, in the presence of somebody else, to support them and help them to embrace them and know what they are and actually find ways and opportunities to use them.
Right. Help them discover their gifts. Yeah. Discover their gifts and encourage them in the discovery. Yeah. Great. Excellent.
Yeah. Cool. And so you're going to recognize this slide.
I do. That looks like David Irvine all over it.
That's David Irvine all over it. And so this was, I just, when we took his course and you and I both shared the opportunity to be in the master's class together with David. And one of the lessons that he talked about was the difference between a transactional versus a transformational relationship. And that just really fit with the work that I'm involved with and that I'm doing. And I think I lost my words for a minute, but through my work with David, I learned that the result of a belief system based on relationship with my son and my students is it was transactional and it moved to transformational based on the know thyself and know the other. So the transformational pieces with there's presence, there's purpose, there's dreams, there's connection, values, and principles, I think is a really another tool to look at ourselves and to look at ourselves in relationship with others.
You know, speaking of David Irvine, one thing he said as well, remember, it was about polite conversations or real conversations, right? And real conversations are the ones where you're getting to really understand the person, you're being vulnerable, you're asking questions, you know, those kind of things. And I think the same thing, the transformational, to be there takes some risk, doesn't it? Like that you kind of have put yourself out there for that to happen. But how much richer is a transformational experience than a transactional experience?
That's right. Yeah. And so transformational relationships embody that concept of being that I was talking about. It's another tool to understand it, because I think that for some people, when you start talking about doing versus being, they kind of go, what are you talking about? So this is just another tool and another way to understand it. And so I left the last session with what is the experience that an individual has in the presence of me. And so is it that one on the left that's a wonderful, growing, I've been seen, I know I have a contribution to make, or is it the other way to say, I just feel horrible, and that person has made me drag up all of these horrible things I feel about myself? So I think that's a really powerful question that kind of came out of my research and the work that I've been doing and the experience that I had in my own life and with my kids. So here's me. So there's a transactional relationship. So am I truly creating the space to be able to see people? And it would be like on the right, it's jumping up into the clouds and not jumping into a perceived death-like experience. So today's topic was my, what's the experience of adversity that I had? And we couldn't talk about it without defining it. So in the book, I do define it with this definition. Adversity is a noun that means difficulties or misfortune. And an adverse situation or experience is unfavorable, it's unfortunate, or it's distressful. And every one of us right now is facing an adverse situation with the pandemic that we've been experiencing. So I don't think there's one person that hasn't been adversely affected in some way or other. So we all know adversity, and it's what we choose to do with it that this topic is all about that.
Mm-hmm.
So in the face of adversity, things change. The routines that we depend on, the behaviors that align with our perceived decisions and our actions become different. They change. Our identity changes. It doesn't make sense anymore. We have connections with colleagues, friends, and family that provide various kinds of supports to us. Those change. And when we encounter unfavorable or unfortunate experiences, those aspects of our life that we've grown comfortable with and that we expect and become dependent on change, or sometimes they're not even there. And I mentioned just a few minutes ago about our identity. It might become threatened. Mine certainly did. And that causes us to doubt, and that causes us to worry, that causes us to become anxious. And as a result, when we're anxious, we start wondering or anticipating what's going to happen, what's going to happen, what's going to happen. And what I've learned is that anxiety is definitely, absolutely an emotion that lives in the future. Mm-hmm. So you can't be in the present, because right. Your mind is always racing ahead of you. Like, what's going to happen tomorrow? What if I don't do this? What if he missed his meds? What if this happens? What if that? What if the surgery doesn't go right? So you're always 2, 3, 4 steps ahead. And my husband and I were talking about this today when we were out on our hike. And we said, the forest where we're living, the beautiful snow falling down. It feels so peaceful, and we feel so grateful. And we knew and we experienced that we were really here. We
Beautiful.
were here.
Yeah.
And we really appreciated. And I said to him, do you regret, when we look back, of all the things that we did as a family, that we didn't have this same experience associated with each of those activities? Did it feel to you that as we were, playing a game or watching a show or going on a little trip, that it was hurry, 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 rush, 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 and that we were always waiting to get to the next moment, the next moment, the next moment, and that we were just there? We went on our trip, there, we played our game, and we didn't really ever have the experience where we really could be so grateful for the moments that we had. And he said, yeah, you explained that really well. And he said that whole sense of kind of well-being wasn't there, which is what adversity does. It pushes the chemicals in your body, and it pushes you to this place where it's hurry, hurry, rush, rush, get it. Because I think you're rushing to a better place, you think, in your mind. Right. So you don't slow down, and you don't truly have the opportunity and the privilege of embracing the moment and feeling really grateful for that moment that you have. Yeah. We miss it.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. You're like, so basically, I mean, all we have is this moment, and then the next moment, and the next moment, right? And if we're always focused, if we're not in this moment, we're just thinking about what might happen bad in the future, kind of a thing, we're not enjoying this moment. We can't do it, right? So yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, I'm with you. Hey, can I share something with, do you know, did I tell you about Panache Desai?
No.
All right. Well, he's a new guy, just ran across recently, and I'm using a guided meditation that he has, and it's about, transforming your existence and about really being present in the moment, that kind of thing. But one thing he says that I love, and I've just tried to do this all the time now, is that when you inhale, when you're taking a breath, and of course, breath awareness is super for all kinds of different health reasons. But here it's as you're inhaling, you regard that inhalation as a gift, a miracle that you're experiencing. So every 4 seconds, you get this miracle that you enjoy, which it is a miracle, right? I mean, you come out of your mother's womb, you start breathing, you breathe until you die. And that happens, and we don't have to do anything about it. It just happens. That's incredible.
Yes. You actually, now that you are retelling me, I
told you this.
remember you telling me that. So that's amazing. Yeah. That's great. And I totally agree. And that's exactly what I was talking about.
Diane, I'm gonna try stop repeating stories to you, at least. I've told you this now twice, so no more.
No, that's okay. That's great. That's great. Anyway, on this theme of things change, my experience with adversity through the boys really, really challenged me. And sometimes it felt like I couldn't go on. And sometimes I felt like I wasn't going to make it. And I know that looking back, I adopted behaviors that were unfamiliar to me. And in an effort to, and I was doing that, I truly believe, in an effort to survive. It was uncomfortable, and the experiences were life-changing. And I've got 2 pictures up there, one of a phone booth, because I want to tell you a story of that exemplifies exactly what I'm talking about. When Ben was small and undergoing eye surgeries, and we talked about this, back and forth to Boston, he had glaucoma. He had a tremendous amount of pain, and he was really hard to comfort and settle. And on this one particular day, our 2 other children were scheduled to be in a cross-country meet after school, and they needed volunteers to drive. And my husband said, come on, step up, you can drive the kids. And so I said, well, okay. So off I went, and I took them across to the other side of the city to a park for this cross-country meet. And I had a van, so I had a couple of other kids in the van, and of course I had Ben along with me. The meet went well, and at the end of the meet, it was about 6 o'clock, 6:30. It was starting to get a little bit dark. It was a little bit cold, and we started on the ride home. And no sooner were we out of the parking lot when Ben started to lose his mind. And I mean, lose his mind. He was screaming, screaming, screaming. The other students and children, my children in the car, were trying to distract him and trying to, comfort him in a way, or find a way to comfort him, and couldn't. And this screaming and screaming was going on. And I got into the city. I saw a phone booth, and I pulled up to the phone booth. I said to the children, "I'll be right back." And into the phone booth I went. I phoned my husband at home, Roy, and he answered the phone, and I screamed into the phone, "I can't do it." And he said, "What? What? Where are you? What are you doing?" "I can't do it." And he's trying to say, "What's going on? Where are you?" So I said, "Ben's crying and I can't drive anymore. I just can't do it." And he said, "You get yourself back in that van right now and you get yourself home." And I said, "Okay." And into the van I went, drove home, and got home. And I look back at that and I think, was I losing my mind? So when he said, "Get back in the car," okay. Anyway, things change. You
Yeah.
aren't the person that you thought you were. The next story, I've got humidifiers there. Why? Because when Eric, our firstborn, was in hospital as a preemie, he was in the NICU for 7 weeks. And the experience there when you go to see your baby is that it's like Fort Knox. You have to go through many different stages, and each one of them, there's sterilization involved. You have to scrub up to your elbows like you're going to go in to be the surgeon for 7 minutes, and they timed you. And then you had to hat and mask and gown, and then you got to walk over to the little isolette and see your little baby there. And this went on 7 weeks. And talk about high anxiety. There were little babies in there that there would be groups of people rush in with a priest, and they would be delivering last rites over the little isolette, and you're sitting right beside. Tons of anxiety, and the environment was so sterile. Every single thing was sterile, and you didn't touch the baby without this, without that. Anyway, and then you arrive after 7 weeks, and they say, "Time to go home." Wrap the baby up in the blanket, hand the baby to you, and away you go. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how do you recreate this environment at home? Like, he's not going to be safe. And the one thing for me that in my mind, it was going to make it safe was the humidifier. If I had a humidifier going in a room where he was, then he was going to be safe. And what happened was I had an addiction that growing to the humidifier, and I had them planted all over the place, and I had them spare ones in case one went down. I had a backup, and it was kind of crazy making.
Like there's no medical reason why the humidifier would.
No,
Okay,
it was a behavior that I adopted to survive the situation. That was not logical, didn't make any sense, and I wasn't the only one, because one of the moms that we became friends with had a baby at the same time, went home at the same time, and we became friends with her in the unit when we were visiting our babies. Her husband was not there. We didn't get to know him. Anyway, one morning the phone rang. It was about 5 o'clock in the morning, pitch dark, and she's crying on the end of the phone. And I said, "Oh my gosh, Roy, her name was Dora, she's on the phone and she's crying." We thought, oh my, something's happened to her baby. And I was saying, "Dora, calm down. What happened? And she said, "My husband took the humidifier to work." So she also was addicted to the humidifier. And so that kind of cured me. But things change. You adopt behaviors that don't make any sense in order to survive the situation.
Well, this is not exactly related to what you're talking about, but I just finished a course with Gabor Mate course on compassionate inquiry, right? And
Okay,
then,
yeah.
and in there he talks about addicts, of course, and with addicts, they're doing that because that is what they need to feel normal to get through the day, to survive, because the current state is so painful that this is what they have to do in order to just feel normal, right? Feel not to get that pain to reduce. So it's kind of it's
Bingo.
something that it's something they're doing to protect themselves because they can't deal with how things are right now, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So the adrenaline crosses the threshold that your body can withstand,
Mm,
and therefore you have to engage in different behaviors to convince your body that you can go on.
right. Exactly.
That's the scientific explanation.
Yeah.
So for me, it was the humidifier at that particular time.
That
Anyway,
that was a fairly benign habit to have, or belief you
yes,
had, right?
yes.
Yeah.
So another, my next slide is, there's my poor little Ben. That's how he spent his first couple of years with his head in his hands. And that was because of the pain in his eyes. And he cried and cried and cried. And he was really difficult to comfort. You just couldn't comfort him. And there's all kinds of spin-offs as a result of that. I know that I made myself a bed in his bedroom and tried to sleep with him on the floor, because he would jump up and then he would run and he would hit the wall or hit his crib or something like that. So I was trying to protect him. So that just kind of gives you a sense or an idea of kind of the degree or the level of adversity that we were experiencing.
Didn't get much sleep during those times, did you?
Didn't get much sleep. None of us did. And there were repercussions.
Yeah, I believe that.
So when you face adversity, whatever degree or circumstance of that adversity, it does challenge your belief system, and it can be dysregulating, and for some disorienting for others. And regardless of how uncomfortable or emotional the situation is, that my advice and what I learned is that you absolutely had the responsibility and the means to take responsibility and be personally accountable. Internal locus of control. I, through the examples I've given you, was always looking to external locus of control. Things were happening to me. And it was somebody else's problem to fix. It was the doctor, the medicine, the humidifier, the phone booth.
Yeah.
That was going to fix it, where I had to look deeper into myself to say, I'm in charge and I can do this. I can figure out what I can do. I can make things happen. And I think this is a really important concept, to realize that you do have that power and you do have that control, and that you shouldn't give it away.
Right.
And you're worth it.
So speaking of this, do you also, like, in terms of a higher power, spiritual power, a belief in something beyond just like a creator, a God, those kind of things, is that a belief that comes into play here to give you the strength to have the internal locus of control? Or is that, tell me how
Yes.
that interacts?
That's your spirit.
That's your spirit.
That's your spirit. And that's your connection to the universe. And the universe is there to take care of every single one of us. You just need to believe.
Believe that. Perfect. Okay. Excellent.
Okay. Next week, problems of practice.
I see. We got some theory, and now how do we put it into play? Is that what you're saying?
Well, what happens, because both Roy and I were in the education system, both teachers, and we had so much experience with healthcare providers, the healthcare system. What we identified through the course of our journey was that there are problems of practice, both within teaching and the healthcare system, that create barriers and make it difficult and challenging for the receivers of the service. And so I identify some of those, both in teaching and in healthcare. And stay tuned. Next week, we get to talk about them.
Exciting. Okay. Well, Diane, that was lovely. Again, thank you so much.
That was
You know
lots
what?
of fun.
Can I add one story to your little phone booth story that you might find interesting?
Sure.
My daughter, Caitlin Nicole Friesen, I drive aggressive and I drive fast. And so why am I teaching my daughter? But anyways, I was teaching my daughter how to drive. And we had this car. Do you remember when PT Cruisers were popular?
Oh, yeah.
They were like the thing, right? And I had this PT Cruiser and I love this car. And she's driving this car down the gravel road. And I drove it like 100, 120 kilometers an hour, something like that on the gravel, which isn't, it should be going slower probably. But she started driving that fast and I just let her do it. And then she hit some washboard on the gravel, got sideways, and just launched off the road into a field, like about 80 kilometers an hour, just like into the field, right? And we didn't roll or anything, but we just left a trail of plastic bits that broke off the car going out in the field. And so then we finally got the car stopped, and she's crying and all upset, and said, "You got us here. Get us the hell out, put it in gear, and get us back on the road." And so she did. So, same kind of a thing. This is go get it done now. So yeah.
Good job.
Anyways, I thought it was somewhat relative. So
it is very relevant.
Diane, it has been a pleasure once again. I look forward to next week, my friend.
Okay. You have a good week.
You too. See ya.
Bye-bye.